Okay, my friends, this is going to get extremely interesting. Fact check. Devil's Tower was formed by Magma. The people calling it a tree claim is false. I agree with the tree claim being false, but I also say this is false. It was not from magma, and I will show you it is 100% biological. And if any geologist, any biologist, any ologist of any sort can stand in front of me, I will show them precisely as I will show you right now why I can make that claim. Make it stick, and I have found the other foot from Devil's Tower too. That's why, oh, how come there's only one foot? No, there's a second one. And all that is the Achilles tendon. It's almost nothing compared to the size of this creature. This was the thing they were talking about. They showed corn roots underneath the Devil's Tower and said, oh, the National Geographic Society did this big survey and they found all these roots. No, they didn't find anything. Here's what they never did a survey either, I don't think. I know. This is the Achilles tendon. That foot was absolutely enormous, and the creature fell over this way with all its red blood and bodily tissues going running out this way, spearfish formation for a very long distance. And they are mining the metals and minerals in the pancreas and the spleen and the liver and the heart. It's all right here in this whole formation. I show it very, very, very clearly. Anybody wants to stand up in front of me and argue, that's what I'm asking for. But I want somebody that has some credentials like these U.S. Geological Service or Yale or Harvard or somebody like that. I've approached them all about all my mud fossils with every kind of evidence you can possibly imagine. It's a refusal to examine. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no real science in the universities anymore. None. Zero. They have it dictated to you what you will say back to them to get your piece of paper. That's as far as it goes. All right, I'm just going to tell you straight out, that is the Achilles tendon, and that's all it is. This tiny, tiny little piece of tendon. And the guy died and fell over this way, and there's a lot of red bloody stuff and calcium all over from the bones and the red flesh, all the way up, running up, they call it the spearfish formation. And I can see where they're mining his organs. Okay, my friends, I am going to show you a couple things before you start laughing. This is Arches National Park in Utah. And you see that coming down, and then there's this big ball on the end. What the hell's going on with that? There's another one laying over here, and there's a bunch of other balls all over. The straps are gone. The straps are weak. The balls are strong. There was another one here and one coming out of here. There was a strap coming out of there, and that was the center to that one. It came probably right over to here. These are anchor balls that are in bodily tissue. You want to see? That ball you were just looking at is this ball right like that with a strap coming up to where it was anchored to. Now, let's look at this in totality. These are what they call tendon enthesis. When they lock in, this ball is ripped out of that hole. That's not supposed to be ripped out of there. That's an anchor. Just like the other ball we saw, and we'll go back to it in a second. It's an anchor, and the strap comes up to the moving flesh. All right, so this can anchor and pull and back and forth. It has to be secured somewhere, and that's where it's secured. These balls will occasionally pull out, and they hurt like hell. I've had it happen to me. They go through what they call a Chinese finger trap hole here, through the tendon down and lock right into here. And guess what? These little nubs right here, those are the nubs you see sticking off of those big flat walls down in the Incas and the Aztec Indians and all that. They made these walls. That's where they snapped off the tendons off these flat plates of soft flesh. Somebody did this with big machines at some point in time, a long time in the past. They had equipment here that could cut slabs, and then they put them up and made walls out of them. And instead of dealing with these, they just snapped them right off. And you see these little bumps all over. That's the bumps that are on these big stone walls. You see this? They mined this. This is tendon. They mined it and made these walls back here. See See, these are tendons. The kids are using them for slides. They had equipment here. I don't know, that's equipment. And they made these walls. And this one was from a piece that still had bloody bone in it. This looks to me like a four-wheel drive tire. See this here, this line right here, and this over here, and you see these loop. It's the kind of stuff we would make today. This goes back a couple thousand years at least. That stone was all from the same time, long ago. See, this is Fuerte del Sempiata, Bolivia. That thing looks like it was just dropped from the sky right in here. It didn't get driven up here. It doesn't look like it to me. There are like tank treads, you can see here and here and here, so that it won't sink down in. But where it came from, how it got here, it would have had to drive up here, because this is all soft. It was all soft at the same time. And they were cutting slabs off the edge. You see, that thing just had to come dropping down out of the sky. How did it get here without making indentations coming in? I can't think of any way. They seem to stop right here. This has a little turnaround thing at the bottom. This looks like an anchor at the top. But anyway, this is what they cut out of here. And in the back, they brought them down there and they made the walls. In some places, they had the ones that had the bumps on them. And then the bumps, they just left them on the walls. Okay, this is from a place called Alame, stock photos. And they're showing, this is the red bodily tissue that when this thing fell over, all this stuff is laying all over the place. These are not layers of sedimentation. These are layers of flesh. And this is why it's so very, very green around these layers of red flesh. Blood meal is one of the best things you can get to grow green plants. I'm going to show you in a second how tiny this is compared to the foot. This is just the tiniest little strap that comes up to meet the foot. The foot is over here. That's your heel. It's called the Achilles tendon. And when it breaks with an abrupt transition straight across, and then you get all that little wrinkle zone. And that wrinkle zone is the tendon just deflexing. And this is the wrinkles of the what they call synovial sheath that coats every one of these fibers. You see here how it's broken open here? This is nothing more than a skim slip over. It's over the top. It slides through back and forth. It's really very, very slippery. By the way, when I talk about slippery, I'm not kidding you. This right here is synovial sheath. Look at this. Coefficients of friction. Synovial joints and sheaths in humans. 0.01 in the static where it's just sitting there. It's just like Teflon is 4 times less slippery than synovial sheath. Once you put it under tension, it goes into almost nothingness, 0.003 instead of 0.04 for tendons. It's just as slippery as can possibly be. And this is what you're looking at right there, is these sheaths. You know, it's time to take a look at things for what they really are and not just dismiss it because it's too scary. That's the tendon that runs right up to the muscle. And in front of that is the bone. I'm going to show you exactly where it is. And I found the other foot too. It's just deeper in the ground, that's all. It's sunk into the mud. Alright, this is the anatomy of a tendon. It comes down in a big sheath, and then inside the sheath is all of these little tiny fibers. And every tiny fiber at the very end has a ball attached to the very end of it so that it won't rip out. Look at this, my friends. There is always well, not always, but there's a lot of abrupt transitions. You see that right there, that little straight cross line? This is what's called selenite. It formed in a certain chemistry that took all the metals and minerals and everything out of it and left like a glassy appearance, you see it? But you still have these transitions. That's nothing more than a transition right there. You see this red look of stuff? The same red stuff there. It's because that is a transition zone between two abrupt transitions, and this literally is the glue that glues them together. You just come up and break these right off at that seam right here. I could snap that right off, really, if I really smacked it. Now this selenite it just transitions this, which is now basalt, but it transitions it into this glassy substance called selenite. And all it is it's in a chemistry that was so invasive that it took everything out of it. And it just left the very basic structural components in there. And blood always stays. Blood is the most tough substance on the face of the planet. Hold on one second. All right, just to show you something here. This is actually muscle. All right, this is tendon. The tendons are primarily flat and really tough, and you know they have all of these layers in them. And all. Now muscle has a lot of layers too, but it curves and it does all the things your muscles do. So this is, and you can actually see, if you look in here, you can see the sarcomeres that that pull the muscle in. These little breaks here. These are not abrupt transitions. Those are sarcomeres. Little different situation. I don't know if you can see them or not. Anyway, very interesting stuff in my mind. See, this is exactly what this is, except it was in a different chemistry where it kept a lot of the colors and so forth. But this is the glue that glues the abrupt transition to the next thing, and it is tough. That stuff, woohoo, that's tough. And what you're looking at right there is nothing but glue between a bone segment and then muscle would take up above. This was between two tendons. This is going to go into a tendon. There'll be a little piece of tendon come up, and then it will go into the muscle. Hold on, I think I have a better shot. I can show you something else. All right, this is that glue right there. The glue, you see the bone right here? This is where the bone was. This is the glue. Now, you can't see the bone, and this one, the bone is up here, but the glue is here, and this is where that tendon attaches. That's like the other one I showed you, sticking straight up off of a bone. Now, this is, sometimes you have a bone like in your arm bone, because you have to attach here and there directly to the bone. This one attached like in a rotator cuff or something. This is not like a direct to a bone emplacement. There's so much to know about this. This is a very, very long process of studying this, really. But this is all blood, and that blood runs down to service this tissue. This is the tendon part. You see these white spots and stuff? This is where that really tough, this stuff here is. It's all over the place. There's all these little white flakes in there are these mineralizations which give it durability, and they're very dense in the beginning, and then they get really red and floppy, and that's where it just breaks off at the end out here. Check this out. I showed this the other day. This is solid red blood. It's eroded away, but that's an artery. This was the outside layer of the skin, and I think it was from a really dense area because it's very, very tough skin. Then a heavy-duty muscle underneath, of course the tendon, and that went into the glue, and then that's where the bone was at the end here. Now, this is just solid red blood up there. That's an artery. That's what pumped blood into that creature's body. Now, let me show you what they claim is millions of layers of tissue. Is nothing more than this tissue here. Remember all these separate, remember how it weaves in amongst itself. Now, it's a very strong spot, so it's probably this tendinous area right in here that they're showing, because it's just one spot right in the middle of the ocean. All right, this is one I showed the other day. This is nothing but membranes. These are all membranes. Then you get into some connective tissue. Then you get into a little taste of muscle. Then you get deeper down into the muscle down here. My thinking is this has to be some very, very strong, so it didn't fall over. Or everything else eroded away, all the rest of the stuff. So this is probably that tendinous area where it's approaching the glue. I mean, that stuff is tough. So it's just sticking straight up in there. It's not millions of years. However long it took to die, that's how long it took to form that. And then after it, we were almost hit by Venus. I don't know how many times I've said this. I probably already said it a couple times in this presentation. We were almost hit by Venus. Look up Velikovsky. Immanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision. Everybody in our entire globe, the whole world, had the same story. We were almost impacted by a huge fiery comet, later turned out to be what we call Venus. And it just boiled the oceans and killed literally everything. And there was just giants here, as I have shown you, that are so astronomically large that they took up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. I didn't put them there. Don't look at me. I'm telling you what's there. And if you can dispute what's there, then that's your issue, not mine. I know what's there. I can see what's there, and I can deal with what's there in a semi-rational way. Nobody can deal with this rationally. Everything that we have been told about our past, about our geology, about our history, about God, as far as I know, nobody's been talking about gods being the ones that the Greeks talked about, the ancient mythology. And it appears that that was pretty accurate. The planets appear to be deities. The same thing with the moons. It's just what it is. If you can't deal with it, you can't deal with it. But life is a journey, my friends, and most people just sitting on the side of the road, don't care about going anywhere. I think this is your opportunity in life. Now I'm getting older, and hopefully I've learned just recently, basically, that my whole life has been just a big mistake, walking around in circles. Oh, yeah, I'm so smart, I can repeat everything they told me. Well, everything they told you wasn't right. So what do you do? That doesn't make you a genius. If you stand up for yourself, that impresses me. That impresses me. If you stand up for yourself, because you're going to get swatted, I can guarantee you. You will get swatted and swatted hard. But if you stand up for yourself and you have the evidence to support yourself, do not run and do not hide. I'm not saying anybody ever gets violent, ever. That's not the way to do anything. Violence, hatred, demeaning people, very, very, very obnoxious behavior, and not in any way related to what I now consider to be the way of life is God's way, and it's love, and it's compassion, and it's peace, and it's friendship and helpfulness. I don't think the God that I'm looking for endorses any of the violence that's going on today. It's absolute disgrace of humanity to be doing this against God's will. And I'm telling you right now, you absolutely are against God's will if you are violent and even hateful. And I got to be honest with you, sometimes I feel kind of bitter, having been treated the way I was treated with the evidence I had. I didn't want anything. I didn't ask to give me a bunch of money and let's do this and that. No. I said, here's the evidence. That's all. And I'm still doing the same thing today. This is more than 10 years later. And so I spent a lot of money, which I don't care about that. That's not the point. But, you expect at some point people to actually pay attention to the truth and reality, and it doesn't happen. That means nothing anymore at all. And you can see it in the halls of our legislatures. It's a very bad situation that we found ourselves in. And it comes from not following the grace of God. Once you turn your back on God, you do anything you want. And that seems to be the way now. I see there are people that are very, very honest and, compassionate. I see that a lot. I'm not trying to put anybody down about that. There is a lot of that. But it's overwhelmingly suppressed by the interests of money. And the powerful, they say, no, we're not going to look into that because that just does not work for our way of thinking, which is the way you have to think in order for us to give you a piece of paper that says you're intelligent. And if you start trouble, we're going to destroy your life because we'll fail you because you don't say what we told you to say. So they have you sort of up against the wall. If you don't go get that piece of paper, then people won't think you're educated. If you go get the piece of paper, the only reason you get it is because you say what they tell you to say. And if you fight back, trust me, I've talked to a lot of people about how they feel about confronting their teachers, and literally their masters. And you step up and start speaking against what they're saying, you're in a bad position. Believe me, because that's what my whole life has been. I've been, I don't hold my tongue, but I don't try to get nasty either. But at some point, you get so frustrated that you just have to just keep pushing. And, sometimes it gets a little contentious, and I can be snippy and nasty. It's just like anybody. I don't want that. I'm trying to avoid that. But I want to put some people up against the wall. Not for any other purpose other than to say, in order for you to leave that wall, you have to tell me that I'm wrong and convince me that I'm wrong. Otherwise, you have to stay in your wall. You just don't belong out in society, forcing people to say what you say as an, educator. An educator is a scientist. First case of every educator. Their first primary mission is searching for the truth. Searching means investigating. Investigating means being open to looking at something that has material evidence. I don't say investigating means, there was a marshmallow flying through space 2 days ago being eaten by a snake. Or, well, let's talk about what the possibilities are here. I don't have any evidence. Well, no evidence, there's nothing to look at. I present evidence, and it will not be looked at. This is where I find it very difficult to continue on, just being around people that accept that. I've told a lot of people, I said, I don't appreciate the way you live your life. If you could just go out and mouth the words that you're told and turn away from the truth, I see no reason to continue on any relationship with somebody like that. And basically, that's why I'm here sitting all by myself.